Friends, Romans, and Patriots, lend me your ears to strap on your tinfoil hats because it's time for the Gay Frog Chat. The Gay Frog Chat is a weekly panel discussion where we go chin deep into a different conspiracy. This week, we're going to be talking about the 9/11 conspiracy, the Big Daddy, the number one, El Numero Uno, the thing that changed the world for the worst. Ever since then, things have been on a free fall disaster. Yes, I said free fall, motherfuckers. That's right. Free fall disaster of the Americas. And before I get into, so after I was just on with Yankee, as many of you may or may not know, and I'm going to kind of try to wait a minute for people to filter in here because Yankee's still going. You may or may not. Nope, that was my chat.
Oh, that you have seen Big.
Yeah, he's still live here. God damn it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because we're going to talk about the National Institute of Standards and Technology acknowledging that World Trade Center 7, what we were just talking about on Yankees chat, where he called me a conspiracy theorist and all this other stuff and how it wasn't true and this and that, how I believe this. Well, I had a minute to look things up after I was gone. Acknowledges that World Trade Center 7 fell at a rate of free fall speed or rate of gravity for a period of approximately 2.25 seconds before it started to slow down. So 2.5 seconds of free fall speed for the building. Free fall acceleration. The only way that can happen, and it's nice to be able to finish a sentence, by the way, the only way that can happen is if the structural support holding up the top of the building has been removed. If there was any remnants of structural support, even if it was like softened, melted beams and damaged concrete and all that stuff, it would still slow the building down. There would be at no point would there be free fall acceleration. So, did want to share that little thing, that little tidbit with you. But before we get into everything, let's say hello to the panel. We got Xanatos. How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing?
Muy bien, muy bien. We have an Ohio Patriot.
I'm doing good.
Excellent. And how are you, Hank Trill?
Not bad, man. Just a lazy Sunday.
Did you guys happen to catch the Yankee chat just now?
Yeah, I caught some of it.
Through any chat, so
yeah, it's difficult arguing with someone who like won't accept anything as fact without like the like line and verse Bible verse for them, you know? Like I don't have all that shit. And I wasn't ready to have that conversation right then, even though I did have some things loaded in the pipe. I wasn't like, here, let me get all my fucking shit together for a debate. You know, because that would have been a different deal. Getting ready for that, I didn't know I was about to go on the chat.
Yeah, that was on a whim. Did good though.
Yeah.
Not according to Daniel. Daniel says, "Damn, Handler, you let him walk all over you." Well, there were 2 times during the chat where he muted me, and that's a fucking bitch move, man. That is a bitch fucking move. If you can't like get your point across. I know it's the internet and people talk over each other and it's annoying. Believe me, I know this. But to have someone come on your chat and then mute them because you don't like what they're saying, like that's a bitch fucking move.
Sounds like CNN.
Yeah.
it's CNN Light.
Yeah.
Fiend Dog says, "I'm sorry for poking you to go on Yankee." It's all good, man. I've wanted to go on and argue with Yankee several times about several things. And
You ain't the only one.
he has never let me come on before. And I don't think I got owned. Like, let's go over the things that we talked about real quick. Before we go into the actual chat, let's go into the things that we talked about. We talked about the Pentagon and the hole in the outer ring. I wasn't able to find the picture of the outer ring before the walls collapsed, but there's clearly a 15-foot hole in the side of the building and no other damage. Right? And then the fires.
The Tomahawk. It was a fucking Tomahawk bunker buster.
Well, and then you look at like the inner rings, the inner concrete walls also have 15-foot holes in them. That's exactly what a Tomahawk missile does. So I'm not saying that's what it was, but yes, I am saying that it wasn't a fucking airplane. Because if it was an airplane,
go ahead.
Well, if it was a goddamn airplane, they would have shown the footage from a better camera.
Yep. Period.
And you can't tell me that, they wouldn't do that. So that was another point is, Well, they wouldn't do that because that's not how they work. Like, okay, you can just say shit. I can just say shit, but that doesn't fucking make it true.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Those spools that were outside of the building, I guess they were doing some kind of construction during this. Wouldn't they have taken the wings of the airplane off, and they'd just be on the ground, right?
Well, Ali
probably.
Amar was the guy who flew the plane. I think that's his name. I might be wrong on that. He was the guy who flew the plane, who failed out of flight school because he was unable to control a single-engine Cessna, right? And this motherfucker is supposedly the guy who did a 360-degree downward descent at 600 miles an hour, ending at like 1 foot off of the ground directly into the side of the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Like the people inside the Pentagon who were looking at the radar at that time were looking at the airplane coming in, and they all thought it was a military aircraft because of how it was flying.
Yeah, that security camera footage just is super fishy.
How the hell do you turn a plane that big like that?
I don't think you can without it disintegrating.
Wings falling and folding off like the hell.
I think the bank turn that it made was at the absolute maximum tolerance that the plane could handle. Pretty much is what I understand.
So he knew exactly how much he could turn that plane, and he failed with the Cessna.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but if you look at the flight path of the plane, how it's not jerky. It's not like at first he started dipping quickly and then he like adjusted it. No, it's like I nose down 7 degrees and then keep that 7 degrees on a 360-degree turn all the way down to the deck, you know? And then at the deck, I stop at like 1 foot above the deck. I hit 3 fucking light poles on the Pentagon lawn before smashing into the side of the building. And yet none of those light poles do any damage to the airplane that leave any debris on the fucking lawn.
Yeah.
And then the last part of it is the engine. There's one picture of a jet engine that was recovered from the inside of the Pentagon. Was shown to people from Pratt & Whitney. Was shown to people from what's the other one?
Boeing.
Thank you. They showed them to like these high-level engineers who worked at the companies that build the planes, and they were like, "Yeah, that's not our engine." So basically, everyone was like, "Yeah, that's not our engine off our plane. I don't know what kind of thing that came off of, but it's not ours." And then there's the picture of Donald Rumsfeld, and like literally, this is the weird thing: it's Donald Rumsfeld and several like FBI agents or something carrying away a giant box covered in a tarp off of the lawn and putting it in the back of a truck, and no one ever got to see what it was. So that could have been the remnants of the Tomahawk, you know, like, or whatever it was. Like, who knows what it was, but we never get to know. Oh, Battle Elf is here. What's up, Battle Elf? Hey, Honda, why didn't Trump reveal who was responsible for 9/11 and who killed JFK while he was president unless he too is compromised?
I've been kind of having that feeling about Trump being like a Benedict Arnold.
They're all
Trying to get-
compromised in some way or form.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on Trump all the time, man. I don't know what to think about him. Like, on the face, he's like, yeah, this guy who wants to like uphold American principles and protect our borders and, you know, do things that are good for the economy and yada yada yada. And then on the other hand, you've got Mr. Red Flag, Mr. Bump Stock Ban, Mr. Oh yeah, I'm gonna declassify things. And actually, he did declassify some JFK files, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yep.
He did a whole bunch of them, but then they released all of the information redacted.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, there was that's when the piece of information came out that basically he was getting daily briefings on what Hitler was up to. Yeah, because Hitler fucking escaped, of course.
Living in Argentina.
Yeah, in Argentina. He was living in Argentina. And JFK was getting fucking reports on what Hitler was doing. Yeah, and like that little piece of information was accidentally released in the unredacted part of the files that were released in the JFK shit. So Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? It was a very long diatribe. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom because I kind of did these in order. Okay, here we are. So, 9/11/2001. I was 19 years old at the time. I had got, like, I used to work 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. shifts 4 days a week. And this particular week, I just got done with my 4th day in a row. A couple of friends of mine from work were hanging out at my friend's house after work because, like, we all get off at like 5:30, and then we go over to my buddy's house and like hang out and drink and smoke and chill and like play spades and shit and just hang out, right? Like unwind from a fucking huge ass long shift. Well, we were doing that, and we were sitting there for, I don't know, it was 3 hours, something like that. We were just sitting there playing games and smoking and chilling. And the weirdest thing happened, dude. And I swear to God that this is fucking true. I'm not making this up. This is absolutely true. We're sitting there, and this voice in my head goes, "Turn on the TV." And I'm like, no, I don't want to turn on the TV. We're having fun. I'm not turning on the TV. It's like, no, turn on the TV. And I did this like 2 or 3 times before I'm like, fine, fuck it, I'll turn on the TV. So I turn on the TV, and it's this burning building. I'm like, I don't want to watch this shit. Change the channel, burning building. Change the channel, burning building. Change the channel, burning building. I guess we're watching the burning building. And then as soon as I stopped flipping through the channels, the second plane hit. It was like I was meant to see it. Where were you guys on the morning of 9/11?
Grade school, I believe. If I remember correctly, yeah. Grade school and fucking... I just remember the teachers not, saying anything about it. I didn't find out till I got home. And, seeing all the after footage and stuff and, like, oh, man. I just felt like it wasn't right, like something was up with it.
Well, and a lot of people forget at the end of the day in 9/11, there was more confusion than anything. There were way more questions than anyone had answers to. And it was kind of one of those things where it's like, you have no choice but to just wait and see what they say and see what the excuse or the story or the line or the plot or whatever it is. And the more that they came out with, the more that I saw, starting from day one, literally from day one, when on the street reporters are talking about explosions and explosions and explosions and explosions and explosions. And then the next day you turn on the news, I wonder what they're going to say about the explosions that happened. No, not a word about it. No one mentioned it ever again. To my knowledge, on mainstream media, no one ever talked about it ever again. That's a little odd, isn't it? Is that another coincidence that can just be explained away? Like, oh, the Solomon Brothers building falling down 20 minutes after the BBC reported on it? No, that's a totally expected coincidence that happens. I don't know, man. Where were you, Ohio Patriot?
I was a freshman in high school, and it was before the second building hit. One of the girls in one of the other classrooms was banging on our door, trying to get the history teacher's attention to all things. That's where we were at in history class at the time. And she's like, quick, turn on the TV, turn on the TV. As soon as he turns on the TV is when the second plane smacked into the second tower.
6079 Smith W wants in on the chat. Yo, hit me up on Discord. Discord link is in the description of the chat below. Click on it. It'll take you to the Discord page where you can join, and then send me a message saying, like, hey, I want to join, and I'll send you a link. What about you, Hank Trill?
I was in 7th grade, and I guess back then everybody pretty much had a TV in their homeroom and stuff at school. But I want to say I saw the second plane hit as soon as we turned on the TV as well, and it was just being that young. It was so confusing, Like, I kind of remembered the Oklahoma bombing, but this was like I didn't know what was going to happen. I came home and asked my mom. I was like, what's, World Trade Center, what do you think? You think stock markets? Because I was a dumbass kid. And I was just so confused as to what was going to happen. But everybody at school it was just a different vibe after that. So it's such a weird feeling.
I'll tell you, when I turned on that TV, and then like 3 seconds later, the second plane hit the South Tower. I thought it was, for like a good couple of seconds, I was like, this isn't real. This is fake. That's CGI. Like, I've seen this shit on the movies. This is not real. This is not happening. What the fuck? It took a minute for it to sink in. Let's get these super chats real quick, and I'll play the video. MSB9021 says, dropped in $10. Thank you, sir. And says, I don't think you were owned. You've said things on 9/11 that caused me to question the party line and seek my own answers. And that's the thing, dude. Like, if you just find a way to dismiss all of this information, you can find a way to dismiss it. If you want to be willfully blind to the holes in the story that exist, you can remain willfully blind. Or you can look at it and actually, like, try to understand what the people are trying to say who are coming from that angle. And maybe you'll agree with them. Maybe you'll end up seeing some things that you're like, you know what? I can't explain that either. And ultimately, my thing is, dude, I don't know what happened. I don't have the blueprint. I'm not the final authority. I don't have any inside information as to what happened on 9/11. But what I do know is that the official story is full of lies. How many of those lies are lies and how many of those lies are just coincidences that look like a lie? I don't know. But I am saying that it doesn't add up. But yeah, this is most people didn't see this. This wasn't released till after the day of 9/11. Most people just saw the building burning after. Oh, let me do these other super chats first. God damn it, I'm sorry. Battle Elf dropped in $5. Said, hey Honda, why is disgraced MAGA Republican Texan AG Ken Paxton blocking the release of the Uvalde 9/11 calls? I mean, I think you know the answer to that. And the answer is because of the egg on all of their faces, and they don't want that to become public. Now, Matt was talking about Texas and how everything's bigger in Texas, and we were talking about, like, why are all the cops in Texas assholes when it comes to this and that? And it's like, well, I guess they're bigger assholes when it's they're bigger at being assholes too in Texas, the police. Not sure. P.A. Pampa says, I was living in Montana. I worked a late shift, so I was sleeping. Got the message and from the answering machine from my mother-in-law, who turned on the TV. I mean, most people saw that shit happen. There's a few people who, like, I very easily could have worked that late shift, gone home, gone to sleep, and not known anything until that night when I woke up. But
well, I know you said that you wanted to go join military after that, and I would have too, but I was only 16 at the time.
Yeah, 9/12, the day after 9/11, I went to the Marine recruiter's office in Colorado Springs, Colorado, down the street from my house. I would have gone to the Air Force if I'd known where it was, but I knew where the Marine was, so I walked there. And I talked to my sister that day. And she was basically like, hey, don't join the military because they're going to end up sending you into some country that had nothing to do with this. They're going to use this as an excuse to go to war. And if you join the military, you're going to be on the front lines of that war. And I was like, you know what? You're probably right. So I didn't do it. But yeah, I mean, she's fucking spot on, huh? She fucking knew.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey dropped in $2 and said, that was entertaining, you and Yankee. I mean, if the motherfucker would not mute me and allow me to finish points when he disagrees with them, even if he disagrees with them, and then make the refutation of the point after I'm done making my point, that's how a debate should work. But if he's going to talk over me, I'm going to talk over him, and then he's going to mute me, and that's a bitch fucking move.
Well, it's like they say, you can't open a closed mind that doesn't want to be open. So
very true.
He said that he was government too, right? So, I mean,
what's that?
He said he was in the government too. So,
yeah, he worked supposedly. I don't have any reason to doubt it, but he worked for Army Intelligence. Oh, that's weird. Clearly, you can see where the wings hit, right? That's strange. Oh, it's because there's glass on the outside of the building. Actually, if you look at the structure of the World Trade Centers, buildings 1 and 2, all of the steel is on the outside of the buildings. Not all of it, but the majority of the steel, the structural steel, is on the outside of the buildings. So what he said was bullshit. Yes, there's glass, but you know what? There's glass on the outside of the fucking Pentagon too. So really, it's kind of the same thing in a way, right?
And who'd have thunk that aluminum was tougher than steel? That's kind of interesting.
Well, speed is the factor, I think. Oh shit, Corey Long didn't get a link? I'm a shithead. Corey Long looking at motorcycles. Where's my Discord? Oh shit, I don't even have it pulled up. Corey. Did I not send one to Corey? Corey Long. I didn't send you one. You're right. Strange. Well, there's your link, good sir. Now, where were we? So yeah, that happens. About this time, phone calls, everything's going out around the world. And then the second plane hits 18 minutes later, something like that. It was like 15 minutes later, the fucking second plane hits.
And where did part of the wing go on that second one? That second one's super fishy because, like, part of the wing didn't even hit the building. You'd think it'd, like, fly off of it.
But not.
Here's a different angle of the second plane.
God damn.
It looks like the building caught the edge of the... Here, let's look at it again. I mean, it looks like it just came inside the edge of the corner. Like the tip.
Then go to the other video. It looks a little different.
Hold on. Hold the door. I mean, it was too shaky. It's hard to fucking see.
Yeah. Just to the edge of it.
I mean, if I can pause it on the right spot. I don't know if there is a right spot.
It does look different from that angle that we're at right now.
It almost looked like it was like turning harder or something.
Yeah, or like lower or something. I don't know. It's just weird. It should don't look right.
This angle's way zoomed in though too, so you wouldn't really see some of that, I guess.
Why wouldn't they be recording the plane too, like before?
I don't think they knew there was a plane coming in. At least the cameraman in this particular shot, like he was recording the building, and then he was like, "Wait a minute, what's that sound?" And you can kind of see him like shuffle and zoom out the camera to try to like catch what it is, and then you see the plane. So I don't know. There's the dancing Israelis. I don't have this pulled up, but you guys know about that, right?
I heard something about this today,
I've heard
but I didn't
stories.
understand what it was.
So, as I think it was right after the buildings had fallen, there are videos of several military-aged men who were later identified as Israeli nationals standing on top of an adjacent building, dancing, singing, drinking, and celebrating. And
Wow.
recording it. They had recording equipment on top of the building, like cameras and tripods set up. Again, is that a coincidence? Yes. Does it mean anything by itself? No. Does the preponderance of coincidences add up to something? In my opinion, yeah, it kind of does. We watched this on Yankees Chat. Oh, let me turn this down.
What happened?
He was in an explosion. He was in the lobby, and then fucking the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like?
Horrible.
So Yankee was like, he said the building collapsed on him. That was during the building collapse. Like, no, it wasn't. This was before these guys are getting interviewed after the lobby blew up and exploded, before the buildings fell down, and you can tell that simply by look how clear is everything covered in dust right now? Nope, just them. They're the only ones. After those buildings fall down, oh god damn it. Sorry, Corey. After those buildings fell down, everything is covered in fucking soot. Okay, let me try this again. Oh, and we got a new guy. Oh, Pat Riot. Did I not send you a link? I thought I did.
Let me in.
And then Corey. Yeah, I totally sent you a link to the fucking channel. Hey, watch the gay frog chat, Corey. All right, well, let's keep this up.
It's like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Is that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the.
Yeah, definitely a secondary explosion. But we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on the way upstairs, the whole fucking thing blew. And we just collapsed and everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down.
Firefighter
First one
on the
got-
right was like third explosions. What he was trying to say.
Yeah, like several explosions going off.
Mm-hmm.
Again, these were things that were talked about the day of 9/11 on live TV with reporters and eyewitness testimony. There's several videos that I have pulled up to illustrate this point. And the day after 9/11, it was never talked about again. Again, does that by itself mean anything? No. Is it another coincidence of weird things that happen on 9/11? Yes. Does the total amount of coincidences add up to something? Again, in my opinion, yes. What's up, Corey?
What's going on, man? Oh shit.
Having issues.
Nah, it's all good, man. It's all good. I just fucking thought it was hilarious. He's like, all right, I'll send you a link. It's a link to your fucking channel.
Make sure you like and subscribe also.
Yeah, that's what they were saying in the chat too. That's fucking funny.
Yo, 6079, man. Seriously, hop in here, and if you want to talk, you can talk. I am Mr. Free fucking speech, unless you annoy the fuck out of me, and then you're not welcome back. But everyone gets one. It's like Spider-Man.
Right.
Then there was a third one too after that one. Yes. Everybody was inside the building waiting to go upstairs, and they just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
So what you told me is that there was a plane or whatever hit the building, and then a secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. Then it exploded. The whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
It's this damn after that.
Just made everybody trying to work their way out.
He's trying to help all the brothers get out.
A lot of people trapped inside.
I was sitting in the Brooklyn neighborhood, close to Brooklyn. We watched the first explosion. As we watched the building, so a black, very large airplane fly right into the second building. It came out of the south, right in front of our eyes. It was so surreal, like a movie scene. Second and third explosion. We were in the building for the third one. It collapsed. On this drive here for the other one.
Okay, so the other thing that I want you guys to understand from this video, all three of these dudes have the same story. All three of these dudes are like, yes, there was 3 explosions. I was here when the first one happened. I was here when the second one happened. I was here when the third one happened, right? None of them are like, bro, what are you talking about? Or, yeah, that was just a gas line, dude. No, they're like, it was an explosion. They're looking at it like this is a terrorist attack. So their assumption and their unspoken assumption is those were bombs that caused those explosions. And again, I don't have direct evidence for that. I can't say that that's what they were meaning when they said that, but it seems to me that's what they were meaning when they said that. All right, 6079. Drop in your email address. I'll email it to you.
Like 50% of what the units that were on scene. A lot of people in that building.
People don't understand. There may be more. Any one of these fucking buildings can blow up. This ain't done yet.
See? And that just proves my point right there. There could be more. Any one of these buildings could just blow up. They ain't done yet. Does that sound like he's talking about a gas leak?
No.
So what Yankee was saying was just bullshit then, yes?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, he's like fucking just stuck in his own narrative, and there's no way you can break through that with logic or anything. You know what I mean?
Okay, and here's another great example of something that we're not even covering on the chat today. And I don't even know how to say your name, dude. Ubuntu Igoswana Afunu says, thermite was found in the remnants of rubble. Yes, not exactly. So in the dust, the 9/11 dust that was spread all over the city, several different samples of that dust were collected and sent to labs. In the labs, the findings were that there were sphericals, like iron spheres, in that dust. Now, when you burn thermite, one thing that happens is you get all of these little microscopic, tiny fucking iron spheres, because it's like iron, and I don't even know how to make thermite, but iron's part of it. And when it burns together, the iron coalesces into spheres because it's so fucking hot. And then it cools off and those spheres solidify, and then it ends up in the dust, and they collect them in the dust. Now, as far as I understand, there's not a different explanation as to why those iron spheres were found in the dust after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone could, point me to an answer for that, then I'll stop asking that question.
How long was there molten steel found after the collapse?
Correct me if I'm wrong, that there was still burning metal, like molten steel, during cleanup.
That's what I thought.
The thermal imaging that I've seen days after, there was fires raging in the rubble, like days after.
And so here's another thing that Yankee wouldn't. Here's a argument I didn't make to Yankee because he wouldn't hear it, and that's about the melting point of steel. And I'm not disputing that jet fuel, when it is burning around steel, can heat that steel up and weaken it. Like, I think that's irrefutable, right? Like, that's a fact of science. When steel heats up, it softens. However, there is video evidence, while the buildings were still standing, of molten steel pouring out of one of the windows.
Yep.
Now, it's not aluminum. Aluminum has a lower melting temperature, granted, and under those temperatures could potentially heat up, cool up, and start flowing out of the window. However, molten aluminum and molten steel look completely different. Molten aluminum looks like the evil T-2000.
Exactly.
Molten steel looks like fucking fire. Like it's like red hot, glowing
lava.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different look. What was flowing out of that window looked like lava.
Well, so, even if the beams were to heat up from the flames and everything, what would happen at that point? It wouldn't collapse on itself. The shit would bend and most likely would fall over.
Right, it would fall asymmetrically. Like
exactly.
The top would crack off and fall. It would, maybe the whole thing would fall, but it would fall like a fucking Christmas tree when you chop it down.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah. It wouldn't just fucking crumble in on itself perfectly like a implosion.
Controlled demolition.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that was my point that I made to Yankee that he didn't have an answer for, which was if fires take down steel reinforced concrete buildings, then why doesn't controlled demolition just start a fire inside of the buildings rather than spending millions and millions of dollars weakening the structure, setting up, detonations, timing the detonations so that they happen in such a certain way that the building will fall? Like, nope, you just got to make a fire and it'll happen on its own, apparently. Oh shit, we got a Leo.
What's up, Leo?
How old were you when 9/11 happened?
Who?
Leo.
18.
I was, 16 or so?
Yeah, I'm the oldest one here all the time, except for when Matt's here. God damn it.
I feel like the youngest. I was 10.
I was 16 or 17. I can't remember. I have to think back.
Okay, what's going on with 6079? Are you trying to get in here? Where's your email? I don't see it.
I don't think you ever dropped it in.
I've been looking for it. Daniel dropped in $2, said, "Oh shit, thermites? Little bastards ate the building."
Termites.
Oh, termites. I put an H in there, didn't I?
Yeah. Well, that's because the other guy, when he said that about thermite, he actually put termites.
Oh, I put an H in there too.
You just read it as termite. Thermite. We knew what he was talking about.
Right. Okay, here's something that most people don't know about, and I brought this up on Yankees chat as an example of something that is completely unlikely that it would have happened at the same day as 9/11, and yet it did. So let's watch this.
George Washington Bridge, Mark.
And again, this has on its face, by itself, absolutely no proof that 9/11 was anything but what the government says it is. But it's another example of a coincidence, and enough coincidences together equal something, in my opinion. But here's another coincidence.
Well, Todd, it's really an amazing thing. Most of New York City's rescue operations and their police and fire departments have been concentrating their actions down in Lower Manhattan, where the two planes hit the two towers of the World Trade Center. But some very intelligent and aggressive cops also stopped another terrorist attack from happening on the George Washington Bridge. CBS 2 has learned exclusively that 2 men are in custody tonight after being arrested at the George Washington Bridge with an entire truckload of explosives. Now, I'm told that those explosives could have been enough to blow up the entire span and all the cars and the people that were on it. But nevertheless, they were arrested. I'm told they were arrested somehow near the Meadowlands, but the explosives were destined for underneath the George Washington Bridge. Again, a tragedy has been averted. The George Washington Bridge still stands because of some...
So the day of 9/11, before anything was, anything was popping off, anyone knew what was happening, anything was anything, there just happened to be another set of terrorists who filled a truck full of explosives and decided that they wanted to blow up the Franklin Bridge. Again, is this proof? No. But here's a question. What happened to those dudes? What are their names? Does anyone know?
Dude, I haven't heard anything about this since then.
Right, I haven't heard nothing about this.
Did you ever find the videos, or you might already have them pulled up, I don't know, but about how the columns at the base of the towers were fucking drilled into and replastered with concrete? Where they're talking about how they set bombs in the fucking...
See, and that's part of the conspiracy that I don't like to get into because there's not as much proof for it. Yes, there are stories about mysterious work crews who were going in and out of the towers in the weeks leading up to 9/11, working out of the the elevator wells. So they were going up and down the elevator, stopping at various points, crawling out of the top of the elevator, going into the structure of the building, and doing something. Now, the conspiracy theory, the official story is that they were fireproofing or they were removing asbestos or something like that. The conspiracy theory is that they were drilling and setting fucking thermite detonators and shit. Again, no inside information. I don't fucking know. Is it weird that there was another set of terrorists trying to blow up the George Washington Bridge that very same day? Yes, that is weird. Is that a coincidence? Yes, it is. Are there so many coincidences that happened this day that it's unbelievable? Literally? Yes, it's literally I don't believe it. It's literally unbelievable. Winston, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Are you W Smith W?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Go on, man.
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Pretty all right. How old were you when 9/11 happened?
9/11, I had just graduated high school.
So you're about the same age as me, maybe a
That's
year
okay.
younger.
Yeah.
And
Gonna be 40 on Biden's birthday.
oh shit. Are
Shit,
you an
you'd hate to
evil
share a
pedophile?
birthday with him.
Are you an evil
Fuck
pedophile
no.
as well?
No.
Do you like the smell of children?
Yeah, no, I don't know if you saw what I had in the chat there, and I don't know if it's okay to say, but it's called a pandemic, they say, and Pan's the god of that. So it was their cover up for, instead of busting them all, just like right before 9/11, there was $2.3 trillion announced missing the day before, and then 9/11 distraction. It's crazy.
With each other. So what else could have caused the Twin Towers and Building
Oh, hold on.
7 to collapse?
The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed.
You played that for Yankee too, and it was obviously clear. You could hear the guy saying the Solomon Brothers building has fallen.
Yeah, and he was like, they didn't
And
say
he's
that.
just
They didn't say that.
refuses
Like,
to believe.
Like
Yeah.
literally, the guy just said that. Well, he was confused. No, dude, you're fucking confused. Because you're the one who you're the
Yeah,
only one
he
who
did-
doesn't fucking hear him say that and is trying to say that it's anything else but that.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
As if a demolition team set off, when you see the old demolitions of these old buildings, it falls down on itself and it is not there
It's
anymore.
popping out.
Assuming that's the one that came from the lower level, since there were two, and I said,
Right, because it was like 18 minutes apart.
well, this is, the first explosion, and there was a second explosion in the same building.
That's weird.
There were two explosions.
Okay.
Federal agencies that were down there do believe that there was some sort of explosive device somewhere else besides the planes hitting.
That's weird. They keep saying that, and then there's this other team of terrorists with a truck full of bombs that was trying to blow up the fucking Franklin Bridge. But you know what, Honda? You're just a conspiracy theorist because you listen to people who were live on the scene at the time that it happened and what they had to say and take them at their word. You're just, you can't listen to people like that, Honda. That's stupid. Why would you do that?
It would have been awesome for you to play, because you had the opportunity on his thing to play some clips to show some of the predictive programming ones. Some people have them in quick little succinct. They just shows them in all the different movies and TV and magazines, and he'd probably still, what do you mean? I don't even see.
Well, and that's why I honestly curtailed my arguments quite a bit, because I'm like, okay, let me point to the things that I can easily show that there's proof for, that maybe it's a coincidence here and there, but like you can't dismiss it.
The Pentagon roof thing, I Googled it right as you said that, and I found one on Popular Mechanics and other ones, and they were saying conspiracy theories, but showing the picture of the roof completely intact with a very small hole with a very small fire in it. I mean, four 2-ton jet engines, nowhere to be found, none of the luggage, none of the 200 passengers, just a hole.
And because I couldn't find it on the spot, on the fly, on a live chat, that argument doesn't exist in Yankee. Yeah.
After you left,
Or to him. Or to
After
him.
you
He
left
just is
Yankees chat,
all about obeying consent.
he said that that picture you were showing of the hole was actually inside, and that they had to create that to get elsewhere. So
It hit the one part of the Pentagon that just so happened to be having a remodel.
Okay, so there's two
Weird.
pictures that I showed on Yankees channel that I wasn't even trying to show. They were just in my feed about the inner ring holes, the 15-foot holes smashed through the concrete on the second and third concrete steel reinforced walls, right? Now, no one has ever said that those were created by the people who were going in there to like fix things. No one has ever said that. Yankee just made that up.
And there'd be no need to. There'd be no need to. It's burrowed right through the concrete. The amount of effort that would have taken to do it's a missile. Yeah.
All right, let's.
I don't understand. Love your channel though, man. I appreciate you letting me on here. I just have a lot of truth to share. Like I said, I'm not trying to promote my channel or nothing. I got almost 100 subscribers again, and I have no content. I'm gonna eventually get a computer so I can do, more proper live streams. But a lot of my stuff is numbers, but it's deception, and I find some fascinating numbers. I'm telling you, 1984 is everywhere, and just stuff like that, and just opening people up to the deception of the government and the world. So. I appreciate you letting me on tonight.
I think we're definitely, provably living in an era of media deception.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, right.
100%.
And that's
I
something
disagree.
and that's something that you either see or you don't. And if you see it, you can't unsee it.
Can I share 2 quick little decodes with you guys of mine?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so from the groundbreaking until its demolition was 12821 days, which is the zip code of Comstock, which means to censor. And it's 5.9 miles from Truthsville. Kind of weird. And then we're living in an age of deception. Kobe dies. Kobe translates as the supplanter, or one who takes the place of someone else, like a false idol or an antichrist. Kobe's numbers were 24 and 8, like Matthew 24:8. All these are the beginning of sorrows, and let no man deceive you. And there's deception. I'd have so much more. I'll just leave it at that. I appreciate what you do. I'm a new subscriber to your channel, so I'll start tuning in. I'll try not to spam the comments so much, but like I have some fascinating stuff that I found.
Right on, man. Right on.
All right, guys, take care.
I don't know about all that numerology stuff sometimes. Like, it seems to me that you can, if you're looking for a number, figure out a way to get to it. It's like half of this and that, plus 17 for some reason, divided by 2, and it's my area code, which means this.
No, but I only do date-to-date duration ones, but I'll turn them into area codes. Like here's a pretty fascinating one. The moon landing took place on 7/20/69, but in the rest of the world they say the day first. So a lot of my zip code ones will have the day first, and so it's 20769, which is the zip code of Goddard, Maryland, home of NASA Space Flight Center. Goddard meaning without God, NASA meaning to deceive. Kind of weird. No,
that is weird.
I got tons of them. Spokane, the birthplace of Father's Day. Spokane's the birthplace of Father's Day. It's the Lilac City because it was a lie to lock us down, and lilacs are part of the syringa family, which looks a lot like syringe, like the Space Jam needle.
Or how
get it? Broad is the path that leads to destruction, and the Space Needle's on Broad Street. Don't take it.
Or how Hollywood is used by witches to make their wands with, to cast spells on people.
Yes, they're casting spells. Yep. Yes, and that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And people are falling for it. And it's Michael Jordan with the all-mocking tongue, who's been putting his name on his people's soles of their feet since the 322nd day of 84. And on his first game, Obama, who was born 8/4, was 8484 days old, and Kobe died 8484 days after his first game. Kind of weird. I'm not looking for it, but that's a lot of 84s. And then the world navigation is run off what's called World Geodetic System 1984. On Kobe's first game, Jeff Bezos, who was the richest man, was 11984 days old. I mean, it's pretty fascinating. Disney's movie about magic, till magic's birth, 6849 days, which is the release of the book 1984. I don't know. Is it magic? I believe in God. I don't believe in magic, but I think it's probably real.
You can believe in both.
or something, you know.
All right. Well,
I could go on for hours and hours. Like I said, I appreciate the forum. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I see you have an awesome channel. They're definitely making the frogs gay, and they're lying to the people. So God bless y'all. Take care. Have a good night, guys.
All right,
Thank
see
you.
ya.
All right, later.
See ya.
The number that is true is the bite cock.
Oh shit! MSB 9021 dropped in $10. And speaking of explosions, my head is about to do one right now. Yeah, I feel you, bro. That's the kind of stuff that I'm not particularly into myself. Although some of it is interesting to listen to, and I forget the guy's name. Who's, oh god, what is his name? He talks about all this stuff too, and like he has a lot of them that are like, what the fuck? But yeah, like again, if you want to come up with a specific number, you can always find a way to do it, you know? So there's that part of it too. Yeah, let's finish this video.
For more than a year, the Port Authority blocked the release of a tape of firefighters' transmissions from the World Trade Center on 9/11. In November 2002, the tape was finally released to the New York Times and other news outlets. Why did it take so long to get the tape released?
An eyewitness who said there was an explosion on floor 7 to 8. 7, 8. Warren Street because of the secondary explosion. We've got numerous people covered with dust from the secondary explosion. And we got another explosion on the tower, 1013. Number 2 has had a major explosion and what appears to be a complete collapse surrounding the entire area. Who's involved in the secondary explosion at Tower 1K?
So yeah, and the point of all of this is to illustrate that there is ample evidence of secondary explosions happening in World Trade Centers 1 and 2, documented by people on the street, by reporters recording it live, by firefighters radio recordings, right? Multiple other sources as well, all saying explosions, 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 explosions. And then the 9/11 Commission report comes out. Not one mention. Not one sentence. Nothing. They don't even like give you a likely explanation of what it could have been, like what Yankee was doing, saying, oh, well, that's just gas explosions and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, fine. He's yelling at me to cite my source. I would dare him to find the source on that because it doesn't exist.
Well, how much gas is... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, how much gas is a building really going to have in one spot when say it breaks a pipe, right? Wouldn't you think they just turn into a flamethrower and it would just light that whole entire floor where the break is and expand all that gas out that way?
As somebody that deals with propane,
accessories.
Yeah, it can happen like that, but also like there's videos online of like people's ovens pipes breaking. And there's just a certain oxygen to gas mixture that it will cause an explosion, but I don't think that's what happened.
Well, it's got to reach like the optimal conditions, right? Where the gas and air have mixed together in just the right proportions. Because if it's not enough gas, it won't explode, and if it's too much gas, it won't explode. So it's got to be like in a certain range of gas, and then if you get the spark or the open flame that sets it on fire, yes, you can get an explosion. But
there's already a fire though with a jet going into a building, and it breaks a pipe. Like
there's open fire in a lot of places. The chances that would happen, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I believe it. It's another one. Sure, it's a coincidence, but the total number of coincidences.
Not even the experts agree with each other.
Oh shit! The total number of coincidences is adding up to a point where it's like it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up.
Well, there's no coincidences in a conspiracy.
What?
So let's listen about some more explosions from inside the World Trade Centers from someone who works there and knows what goes on and where the boiler rooms are and all that shit. Oh, Gunlawyer Barry Garrett says, but jet fuel can't melt steel? Literally, it can't. It can heat it up and soften it, but it cannot turn steel to a molten pile of lava. Which, again, is the straw man argument that anti-conspiracy 9/11 theorists say debunks the whole thing. Is, well, it'll soften it and melt it. Well, now it'll melt it to a point, but it won't get to a liquid pool of steel, which is literally what eyewitness testimony claims to have seen, as well as video evidence that we've shown on this channel before.
So what happened in the North Tower? Ask Willie Rodriguez. Willie, a janitor who worked in the World Trade Center for 20 years, was in sublevel 1 when the North Tower was hit.
And all of a sudden, we hear boom! I thought it was a generator that blew up in the basement. And I said to myself, oh my God, I think it's a generator. And I was going to verbalize it. When I finished saying that in my mind, I hear boom! Right on the top, pretty far away. So what the difference between coming from the basement and coming from the top.
See, and this is something that Yankee said that he's never seen before. He knows who Willie Rodriguez is, but he has never seen him talk about the explosions in the basement. As far as Yankee understands, William Rodriguez, what he did that day was unlock doors and help people escape, which is also true. As far as I'm concerned, Willie Rodriguez is a fucking hero. But
Yep.
That's, everybody started screaming. And a person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. He got his hand extended, and all the skin was pulled from his under his arm, all the way to the top of the fingertips, and it was hanging both arms. Hanging and hanging. And then I look at his face, and he was missing parts of his face. And I said, what happened? What happened? And he said, the elevators, the elevators. And there were many explosions, and when I actually talk about those explosions, they said that, well, there were so many kitchens in the building, and they have probably those gas canisters. And I say, I don't believe that, because the building was a Class A building. There are very strict guidelines for what you can put in a kitchen. And I really doubt it was gas. So there was a lot of misconceptions of what happened that day in terms of the explosion. But up to date, I haven't received an actual explanation about the different explosions that I had on the upper floors and not all the way to the top.
What we do? We made it outside, we made it about a block. We made it at least 2 blocks, and we started running. Floor by floor, it started popping out. It was if it had detonated. Yeah, detonated. Yeah. Take down a building. Boom, 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 boom. All the way down. I was watching it and running. Just ran up, and then you just sort of this cloud of shit chasing you down. Couldn't outrun it.
So what happened?
There you go. So William Rodriguez talks about the explosion happening in the basement before the explosion at the top of the building. He talks about the explosions that happened all throughout the building and how the gas did not properly explain to him, the person who works in the building and knows how things work, why that happened. No one has ever given him an explanation that he can accept.
Is this guy still alive, or?
I was just about to ask that.
He is still
I'm sure
alive.
a lot of these people have died or were murdered.
William Rodriguez is still alive.
Yeah, I think there's
I
quite
wonder
a
why
large
we haven't-
percentage of people that have died because of the inhalants from the
Oh yeah.
collapse.
That's why wasn't sure if he was still alive or not. But it would be really interesting to have his take on, with everything that's come to light so thus far, of what his opinion is now about what took place that day.
Or he might change it because maybe somebody may have told him to.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Good
Just
library.
saying.
Good library, Garrett says. And vodka can melt steel, and Honda drinks vodka, just like all those investors had in their desks. Motherfucker.
And that's like when you and Yankee were talking about the fucking videos that surrounded the Pentagon that were just, confiscated. And how come we haven't seen any of them, which is a valid point. And Yankee, I don't know if it was childish or how you want to phrase it, but he says, well, me being in,
CID.
The CID and everything, we wouldn't release it just because of people like you. Like that's not a fucking valid point. Obviously, there's something on there that they don't want the people to see that will either prove or disprove what took place.
Well, presumably, if they had video of a 737 flying down and crashing into the Pentagon, they would have shown everybody.
Exactly. So why didn't they?
And you
It
saying,
doesn't
"Oh,
exist.
I'm CID, and therefore I know," blah blah blah. Yeah, that doesn't cut it for me. You can say that, but that doesn't cut it for me.
No, it doesn't. If we're gonna sit there and say, "Oh, we wouldn't release it because of people like you," the fuck does that mean?
I'm CID. Daddy government gives me massages at night.
Okay, and I don't have this story pulled up. And before I play this next video, do you guys know about the truck, or there was one truck or multiple trucks filled with gold that were driving out of the basement parking garage area?
Yeah, I heard about that.
That were abandoned and left where they sat, and the driver like left the door open and ran. No one knows who the driver is. No one knows anything about it. But there's trucks full of gold that were being taken out of the basements of these buildings as they were burning.
Really?
Yes.
I hadn't heard that.
I have heard that.
Kind of reminds you of what's that movie in New York where there's terrorists and the people are stealing gold from the financial district and the World Trade Center was
Die
right
Hard with a
nearby.
Vengeance.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's just like Die Hard. That's weird. Anyway, so here's more reports from the basement. This is a different guy working a similar job to Rodriguez, talking about the exact same events.
At 8:30, he says he was headed to level B4 in Tower 1, 4 stories below ground.
I go downstairs. The foreman tells me to go to remove the containers. As I'm walking by the main freight car of the building in the corridor, that's when I got blown.
Nobody?
No. Too easy. Too easy.
Lewinsky?
I mean, the impact of the explosion, of whatever happened, it threw me to the floor, and that's when everything started. I know people that got killed in the basement. I know people that got broken legs in the basement. People that got reconstructive surgery because the walls hit them in the face. And I know I love seeing everybody every day that survived it and was there.
What happened was I was down in the basement. All of a sudden we heard a loud bang, and the elevator doors blew open. Some guy was burnt up, so I dragged him out. His skin was all hanging off. So I dragged him out and I pulled him out in the parking lot, which we were left on.
It was just total chaos, and the bottom of our building was blown out.
Let's let our audience know the information. Tell what is it in your story that challenges the 9/11 events?
I worked in the building for 20 years. I was the person in charge of all the stairwells in the building. I have the only master key that opened all the doors in the building, and I went floor by floor opening the doors. On 9/11 and 8/46, I was at the basement of the North Tower, the first tower to be impacted, the second one to fall. While I was there, a second or two before the plane hit, there was a huge explosion on the sub-level B2 to sub-level B3.
So there was an explosion from below you.
Correct. And that was, a second or two before the...
But it was clear, it was distinct that the explosion was before the plane hit the top of the building.
Definitely. As a matter of fact, it was so hard that I thought it was an electrical generator that just blew up on the sub-level because the support of the building in terms of electrical pumps and generators was located by the mechanical room on that floor. And when I went to verbalize it, we heard the impact of the plane very far away coming from the top. So there was a big difference of something coming from the top and something coming from the basement. I mean, I worked there for 20 years. I could tell the difference of one thing coming from the top.
So there you go. Now you could argue that they happen close enough together to where, like, the plane hits the top, the explosion, reverberation, fuel, all that stuff travels down and, like, explodes in the basement, right? And then you hear the top explosion. But that would mean that fuel and explosion went faster than the speed of sound through the building and exploded in the basement before the sound of the plane hitting the top of the plane could get down to the bottom floor by a significant amount. And I don't think
they
that
also. Oh, sorry.
No, that's all.
They also said that people were like their skin was falling off and melting off, right?
Yeah.
What explosions do that? They don't. I guess blow their limbs off, right? It was a different type of explosion, so it was high heat related. What kind of explosion does that? Thermite, literally, like it melts
jet
through
fuel,
shit.
to be fair, a jet fuel explosion could do that too.
Right, but they were saying the guys at the basement though getting blown away, you know.
And that explosion happened before it happened up top. So
Yeah,
that is the hole in the argument right there. All right, and I think this is the oh shit, I've got 2 more videos of explosions, and we're done with that.
Yeah, here's one of the guys who can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
See, and it's that kind of explosion that people are reporting. Like, that was like a kaboom explosion. Want to hear it again? Let's hear it again.
All right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something? All right? Don't worry about me. You need to make calls right now. All right, let's go.
There you go.
Boom, boom.
And then on this one, we've got to go to 1 hour, 12 minutes, 28 seconds.
One right here.
1 hour, 12 minutes, 23 seconds. Close enough.
God.
Now, you mentioned that you saw people on the road outside of the building. Explain that scene.
I saw there's maybe about 30 or 40 people. There's actually, oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
We're not sure exactly what happened, but it was another explosion on the far side of one of the buildings from where we're standing. The reverberation and another explosion on the right-hand side.
So as the building is collapsing, it starts with an explosion, and as it's falling down, there's more reports of explosions happening. Now, if you are a government believist, I don't know what to call you, you would say, oh, that's just like one giant steel girder running into another giant steel girder at high speed, and that's the sound that happens from. And maybe. But again, that's not what people on the street said. That's not what the firefighters said. That's not what the eyewitness testimony and the video evidence shows. And there's all kinds of holes in that. And you can again say, oh, coincidence or this or that. But dude, there's just so many. There's just so many fucking coincidences and weird things and this and that happened that day that add up to like, you guys are fucking liars. You're not telling us the truth. All right. There's that one.
Military.
And now we are on to this. This footage aired once on 9/11 and never on TV again.
The Pentagon, CNN's military affairs correspondent, Jamie McIntyre. And Jamie, you got very close to where that plane went down.
That's right, Judy. A while ago, I walked right up to next to the building. Firefighters were still trying to put out the blaze. The fire, by the way, is still burning in some parts of the Pentagon. And I took a look at the huge gaping hole that's in this sideway, but from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual site of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you can pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around.
So he was the first reporter on the scene. He got to walk up right next to the wall where the plane crashed into the building. Firsthand evidence, firsthand account of what happened. Yeah, there's a hole in the building, but there's no pieces of plane. You can't see any large tail section pieces, wing pieces, engine pieces. Nothing like that is visible. This doesn't look like any plane crash I've ever seen before in my entire life. It doesn't make sense. Another thing that just doesn't make sense. And then let's not forget this. This is the day before 9/11.
We are, as they say, tangled in our anchor chain. Our financial systems are decades old. According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions. We cannot share information from floor to floor in this building because it's stored on dozens of different technological systems that are inaccessible or incompatible. We are, as they say.
So they're doing this investigation as to Find out where this $2.3 trillion is. Let's get all of these antiquated files and computers and shit together in one area so that we can work on them, so that we can find out what happened. Boom! Blowed up. Oh, we've got a backup, though. A bunch of the information, not all of it, but most of the information we have inside of a building in New York City. What building? Oh, that'd be the Solomon Brothers building, you know, World Trade Center 7. It's cool, though. I mean, we got the FBI field office. The New York field office is in that building, so it's completely secure and safe. No big deal. Boom, gone. Investigation into $2.3 trillion. Boom, gone. Never heard of again, period. Never looked into, never questioned, never asked about, never happened again. Coincidence?
Still don't know where that money's at.
Coincidence. Yes, that's a hell of a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And let's look at the one piece of video evidence that they show as proof that a Boeing 737 crashed into the Pentagon. Happens right about here. Anytime now. Anytime. Oh, there it is. Boom, it's done. That's all you got to see. So there's 3 frames.
Definitely don't look like no 737 I ever seen.
No.
This is the only frame where you can see anything at all, and that looks like a trail of smoke coming out of the back of a fucking rocket. Yep.
Tomahawk.
Which means if the smoke's here, there should be a huge airplane right here
Mm-hmm.
in this frame.
Yep.
Not there.
A plane that size would leave a larger explosion than that as well.
And here's an outline of that building and a 2-scale 737. Shows where the tips of the wings would have hit, shows where the tip of the tail section would have hit, shows where the, well, it doesn't really show it, but you can see where the engines would have hit, right? Because it's got 2 engines, one on each side. These engines are what, like 5 feet, 6 feet across. They're made out of solid steel in some places, made to take high temperatures because they're burning jet fuel continuously for hours on end. If anything's
Titanium.
Anything,
I got titanium in there.
Yeah. If anything's going to survive a jet fuel explosion and plane crash, it's components of these jet engines, right?
Yep.
And I don't have this pulled up. This isn't part of the thing, but there was a picture, only one picture that I know of, taken of one of the supposed airplane's engines inside the wreckage inside the building, right? That picture was shown to people at Boeing and people at Raytheon and other companies, and every single one of them was like, nope, not our engine. We didn't make that. Nope, not our engine. You can see right here. That's got different, like, whatever things on it, you know? Like, they're all, like, denying that it was theirs. Which, if it was theirs, like, if it was a 737, wouldn't Boeing be like, yeah, that's our engine? That sure is. Why would they say that's not if it was?
Wouldn't it be like telephone poles and street lights and traffic lights all over the place if you flying that low?
Well, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So on its flight trajectory, according to the official story, it took out 3 light poles on the Pentagon lawn before it crashed into the building. If a 737 clips a light pole going at, 500 plus miles an hour or whatever it was going at, it explodes there. It doesn't explode like when it hits the building. It's done then and there, period. Like, that shit will rip a wing off. That shit will rip into the fuselage and explode the entire airplane. Like, that shit will crash you and fuck you. It hit 3 of them. 3 of them. And then the other thing, this is, again, I don't have this pulled up, but this is the official story. Okay, why is there a 15-foot hole initially in the side of the building? How do you explain that? Well, the official story is, as it was coming in, the pressure from, so like when you're flying in air, like there's downward force air coming off of the wings, pushing off of nothing, right? Just other air.
Mm-hmm.
When you get close to the ground, it doesn't have the space to expand that air. So a lot more pressure, upward pressure happens on the wings. And that pressure supposedly ripped the wings off both at the same time simultaneously. As the nose was entering, the wings flipped around behind the plane and flew into the same hole as the plane flew into directly behind it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call.
That's the official story.
If anything, it would have sucked the plane into the ground, getting that low without the air pressure. It would have crashed sooner than hitting the fucking building.
This is the picture that I've seen.
And this is the exit hole. So this is after it crashed through the front of the building, went through all of the offices, crashed through the back steel reinforced concrete wall, right? This is number 2 wall that it went through. And here's number 3. So it went through 3 different walls, left a 15-foot wide hole in all 3 walls. What does that?
Some magical aluminum.
No, like literally, there is something in that is
a bunker
produced.
buster, yeah, a bunker buster.
A
You're
45.
right, a fucking tomahawk. And if you look at this video, does this look like a tomahawk, maybe? Where is it? Oh, come on.
Yep, that's tomahawk.
Could that be a tomahawk? Absolutely,
Yeah.
it could. Am I saying that it absolutely is? No, I'm not.
It's definitely not a 737.
And then here's just a picture of the outside of the building. This is after the collapse. They're already, the fire trucks are there. But here you see these spools of wire and stuff just sitting there, right? There's windows right here and right here and right here and all over the place that aren't broken, that are just like completely intact. Anyway.
That thing blew up after it was inside, and pieces of it kept going, like probably the motor for the rocket. So it blew up inside the building after it went through, and then pieces of it kept going.
The debris here is spread over a 3 to 4 mile radius, which has now been completely sealed off and is being treated, according to the FBI, as a crime scene.
So this is the one thing during our whole conversation that me and Yankee agreed on. And that is the U.S. military shot down Flight 93. Flight 93 crashed into Shanksville, Tennessee. It had a 3-mile trail of debris leading up to the main pile of debris where the crash happened. The coroner shows up to the scene to like collect dead bodies and immediately goes on break because there's no dead bodies to collect. Like everything's just vaporized. People on the scene said it looked like someone dug a hole, put a bunch of trash in the hole, and then lit the hole on fire. Like that's what the crash scene looked like at the time, right? Different than any other normal 747 plane crash. If it was taken over from people on the inside of the plane, I don't think that there's a way that you can make the plane come apart in midair, right? Like, can you? Is there a way you can like grab the control stick and shake it around so that the plane starts flying apart? Maybe.
Not into a ton of pieces. You definitely rip a wing off.
So I guess there's like a very, very, very small percentage chance that that is the truth and that's actually what happened. More likely, in my opinion, they saw the flight trajectory of this plane. They knew that it was headed towards the White House, or at least Washington, D.C., and they shot it down before it got there.
As to be expected.
Right. Or, I mean...
go ahead.
Okay. Even though if the passengers did took over the plane, none of them knew how to land it anyway. So, in order for it to not hit the city, I guess the call would be, okay, let's shoot it down over this field. If that's the case. Anyway.
Can you guys hear me?
Needs to know about the men and women who are on board Flight 93. They're all heroes in my eyes. They really are. They all pitched together and they did what they thought was the best thing to do at that time. And I feel that Todd played a great role in that, because when he told the guys, "Are you ready?" I assumed that they were waiting on his cue. Then they responded to him, and he said, "Okay, let's roll." What do you think that this country needs to know about the men and women who were on board Flight 93? They're all heroes in my eyes. They really are. They all pitched together.
We already played that. So yeah, that's the official story. Like, yeah, these amazing heroes who just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, banded together and stopped a tragedy from being a catastrophe. And like, they're heroes, and we should remember them. But don't look into this at all.
Exactly.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, finally. Jeez. I hate StreamYard. It does not work on my phone at all.
How old were you when 9/11 happened?
I was probably 19 or 20. I was working in construction out of church. And somebody like screamed real loud to come listen to the radio. And probably for 3 or 4 hours, the whole job site shut down and just listened to this freaking radio. And eventually we're like, dudes, this could be the end. And we all just went home. We're like, we're going home to be with our families. We don't know what the heck's going on. So
I think the whole country pretty much shut down when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
So 9/11, 2001. I got off of work. We were partying at that house. Voice says, turn on the TV. Turn on the TV. See the explosion. I sat at that house for probably about an hour with those people, with my friends, like watching this shit. And I'm like, dude, I got to go home. I go home. My brother's there. My like other roommates are there. My friends are there, you know. So we're all like, you know, sitting around and talking about what's going on and fucking watching the news until we were all just sick. Like, I felt physically ill at a point, especially after the buildings fell. Like, those buildings fell, and you just watched it over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And you know when you're watching it, like, that's 3,000 people that just died.
Right,
you know?
right in front of your eyes.
Mm-hmm. And I started feeling really sick, and I hadn't slept yet, and I was getting really... I just had to go lay down. So I went and I laid down, and I took a couple hours nap, you know. Woke up, turned on the TV, and Building 7 is falling down. I watched it fall live on TV.
Me too.
Tell me that I'm sure they're going to be
here.
Call.
The real sick part that I just was gut wrenching is how they kept showing the fucking people that were jumping out of the tower to escape the fire and showing them falling. That was fucked up.
So this is a video of Larry Silverstein. Larry Silverstein, at the time of 9/11, had just signed a 99-year lease on both buildings. And each building had, I think it was like a $2 billion insurance policy per building for a terrorist attack. So if the building happens to get attacked by terrorists and there's some damage or whatever done to the building, it's covered up to $2 billion by the insurance companies. So 9/11 happens. Boom, boom. Both buildings get hit. Larry Silverstein goes to court, tries to claim each individual act is a separate act of terrorism. Therefore, each individual policy needs to pay out. And since it's a total loss, the payouts need to be the maximum payout. Meaning Larry Silverstein, because of the attacks on 9/11, stand to gain something like $4 billion in profit. Himself.
Oh, 6 billion, because the other one, because it's 3 World Trades. Did he own both? I mean, all 3 World Trade buildings?
I think he only had 1 and 2.
Okay.
So here's Larry Silverstein talking about the demolition of World Trade Center Building 7. Maybe he owned 7 too, actually. Now that you mention it, maybe he had 7 too. I'm not sure.
Right.
But here, let's watch.
I feel like he should have gave that money to the families that the members that died.
No, he put that.
Think.
He put it in the fucking bank.
What a fucking prick.
Commander, telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it.
So what does pull it mean? When you're talking in terms of a building being demolished, what does pull it mean?
Ignite everything. Just set everything off.
So when controlled demolition is setting up a building for controlled demolition, which is what they do, when they press the button to make the thing go down, that's pulling it.
Yep.
So he's using an industry term for controlled demolition.
And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
At free fall speed for 2.5 seconds, and then it slowed down a little bit towards the bottom.
The keys to what happened on 9/11 is what caused Building 7 of the World Trade Center to collapse. Many of you are going to go, Building 7, what was that? That was a 47-story steel and glass office building that just totally collapsed down into its own foundation about 5:20 on the afternoon of 9/11. It was not hit by airplanes, didn't have any devastating fires in it. It just collapsed down after the building owner, Larry Silverstein, said, well, I told the fire department to pull it, and they pulled it, and we stood there and watched the building come down.
And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Well, industry slang, pulling it means controlled demolition. If Building 7 was brought down by controlled demolition, then why is it so preposterous to assume that perhaps the Trade Center towers were brought down by controlled demolition?
Okay, so one thing you do during controlled demolition is you take out the center columns first and then the outer columns so that it buckles in on itself and then falls into its own footprint. Watch very, very carefully the center of this building.
Controlled demolition, then why is it?
The center of the building sags before the corners do. And then
so preposterous to assume that
the entire thing comes down as one piece. That is exactly how they do controlled demolition.
Too bad you didn't have this ready to go on Yankees chat to show him, you know.
He would have had arguments against it.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And at a point I was just like, I'm done trying to argue. That's why towards the end I'm just like, you know what? You win that one, we're good.
Right.
So here's another view of World Trade Center 7 as it's being demolished. Wait a minute. What is that? Let's play that again real quick.
A lot of little explosions.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 8, 9, 10-ish explosions happened as this building were going down.
Yeah,
but now it fell down in its footprint because of structural fire caused by the falling of the World Trade Center towers next door. And that fire eventually led to its falling down into its own footprint 20 minutes after the BBC said that it happened.
Isn't that building like 7 blocks away though too? Like, the fuck?
I'm not sure the exact distance.
Yeah, it was pretty
But
far
we're
away
conspiracy
from the other trade
theorists and
centers.
I think if you look at a map, it is several blocks away.
Are you sure? No.
Yeah, let's look it up real quick.
While you're doing that, I used to work a block away from the Pentagon in Crystal City. And if I'm not mistaken, where the plane hits, there's a freaking highway.
Yeah, you're right. There is.
Like a raised highway, like a ramp in front of where that plane hit. So I don't know, can't see how a plane would level off with the ground and go straight into the building. Something was able to go under that overpass and go across the parking lot and then into the building.
So here's 1 and 2. World Trade Center 6, I think, is a much shorter building, and then 7's a 47-story building. So 1 and 2, I forget how many stories are 1 and 2, like 100 or some shit.
Yeah.
Like they're fucking tall. But I mean, like a 47-story building in your city that you live in, would that be the largest building? Probably.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be one of
Did
them. Remember.
Did they ever say how badly damaged Building 6 was? Because I mean, you would think that 6 would have been, or was it demolished? I don't remember.
6 had a bunch of debris that fell on the roof. They had a partial collapse at the front of the building, but ultimately the structure itself held and didn't collapse.
So why did 7 go down like that? If it was damaged by 1 and 2 falling, why wouldn't 6 being demolished from the falling debris or whatever,
or 4,
or even half of 5?
Yeah, or 4 or 3, which were both way closer. Yeah,
exactly. 7 is awful far from 1 and 2 because 2 went down first, right?
South Tower
did, right?
South Tower did. So 2 did, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So look how far 7 is from 2, which was the first one to fall down. Yeah, that's just way too far-fetched for me to believe that.
So the government conspiracy theory when it comes to Building 7 goes as such. When 1 and 2 fell down, it did incredible damage to the infrastructure around, including the water lines, the emergency firefighter and building water lines to Building 7. So Building 7's sprinkler system wasn't able to be turned on because they didn't have any water. So when a fire happened, the only way to get it out would be to send firefighters in. And so many firefighters were dead from Building 1 and 2, and they were undermanned and overworked and all that stuff. They couldn't properly put people on Building 7 to put the fires out. So therefore the fires got out of control and the building fell. But you have to discount the sagging in the middle of the building. You have to discount that video that I just showed of explosions going off as the building was exploding. And you also have to discount the fact that it was only 2 small areas of the building on 2 separate floors on one side of the building that ever caught fire. And the only thing to burn inside of those buildings was office furniture and carpet.
Mm.
So it's like, after that office furniture and carpet...
That video you just watched, was there any smoke coming out of that building?
Yeah, from the other
video
side.
where the windows blow out. The video where the windows blow out.
I've
There's
seen
no
videos
smoke
where there
coming out of that building.
Well, I've seen videos where there was
Zero
smoke
smoke.
coming out.
You can see smoke right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we know for sure that that last video you showed from those other angles with the explosions, that was Tower 7.
Yep.
Okay.
Now the video could be, edited.
It could be. I don't know. Maybe it is. Let's assume that it is. It still sagged in the middle and fell at free fall speed for 2.5 seconds before there was any kind of structure beneath it to slow it down.
Right. It was too clean and perfect. Like if it was going to fall, it would have at least toppled over and been all messy.
Yeah.
And since those fires were on one side of the building, if there was structural weakening, it would have been a localized structural collapse, not a systemic total collapse like happened. Or if it was a total collapse, it would have been an asymmetric total collapse.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for 100% that all 3 of those buildings were demoed. And I think there's, for liability purposes, they're lying about demoing the buildings because they don't want it they don't want it laid upon their shoulders that they demoed those buildings with, 3,000 people or whatever in the buildings.
They knew the repercussions of what would happen. The war, I mean, everything.
I think there's several different layers of conspiracy around this. Some of it is why it happened, and some of it is the cover-up of what they did. I think there was something in Building 7 that needed to disappear.
Well, that's where they were. Okay, so I brought up the 9/11 war games on Yankees chat, and he was like, "Where's your source for that?" Blah 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 blah. All right, so it's the CorbettReport.com, right here. Anyone can go here. Open source intelligence news. Every single go to any goddamn video that he does. Right? Oh, this isn't a video. That's just a picture. All right, bad example. Where did it go? It just disappeared. Oh, here we go.
You've exposed it to the daylight. It's been disinfected.
This isn't it. It just went away.
They caught on to you.
Seriously. I don't know how that happened. Did you see that?
Yeah, it just blanked out. Like, what the fuck?
All right, let's try it again. CorbettReport.com.
Now it looks
Go
different.
to a random video. Click here for the show notes. What are the show notes? The show notes are line and verse where you can find the source of the information for what he's claiming in the video. Source, Dan Rather.
Previously on the Corbett Report. Meanwhile, in New York, the era of Islamic terror.
Where is this coming from?
Is about to.
Oh, there we go. So he'll have source. President Bush's address to joint session of Congress, September 20th, 2001. Source. Remarks by President at National Defense University. Source. Operation Northwoods explained by James Bamford. Source. September 11, 2001, 11:28 EDT. BBC World News. Source. President Bush's address to a joint session of Congress on September 20th, 2001. He has every piece of information meticulously sourced for literally everything he says. I don't know how this guy could be so anal about every little thing, but thank God for him, because there's people like this who have this kind of information who can put people like Yankee, if they would just look into it, if they would just go across that threshold and reach out with their hand and grab that olive branch and realize that it's not poisonous and that no one's trying to hurt you on this side. We're just trying to point you to water and to tell you that the water you've been drinking has been turning the frogs gay.
Ignorance is bliss.
But yeah, Corbett talks about the 9/11 war games. So if you want to look that up, and he's got all of these videos sourced, you can watch them on his website, 9/11 war games. Right? Several videos on this, but specifically this one is the one I'm talking about, where it's an hour-long video, so I'm not going to play it on Yankee's fucking channel.
When we remember the events of 9/11, we are often invited.
But he goes into all of the declassified war games that they know about, and then speculates a little bit about the ones that we don't know about that could have been happening that day, and notes that even if you discount the ones that we don't know about because we don't know about them, the ones that we know about, this was the most busy day in American history of United States armed forces doing war game scenarios, because they do these all the time. Like, let's do a war game where like Russians are flying planes from this direction. What do you do? Go, and like, we got to scramble jets. We got to do this, got to do that. Okay, now we're going to evaluate you, But there are times when war games are done in a way that they can be made to go live, if that makes sense. And you can create a false flag event based upon compartmentalization of people involved in a war game who all they know is my orders are to fly this remote control plane into a building. For all I know, it's a video game. And then they do it. And then there's, 9/11 happens. I don't know, dude. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's another coincidence on a pile of coincidences that adds up to me to the fact that I believe that 9/11 was perpetrated by our government. And if you need further evidence of that, reference the pandemic. That's all I got, boys.
How many times before like some tragic event happens, days or weeks before, there's been a practice event that the government puts on. Like, how many times does that have to happen before somebody wakes up and say, this has to be more than just a coincidence?
Do you remember the
Uvalde.
London tunnel bombings from about 2005-ish? So London, big city, has a subway system. They call them the tunnel, right? You get on the tunnel, you go wherever. There was a government exercise where they were planning and like they were going to do a mock terrorist attack explosion inside of the tunnel to see how they would react, and they'd have people in place and they do this and that, and they would judge the people. While they were doing their war game scenario, a bomb goes off in the tunnels. And it just so happens that all of the first responders were already there because they were there for the exercise. The Port Authority in New York City, 9/11, 2001, was already there in uniform, ready to go because they were going to do an exercise in which buildings were going to be crashed into with airplanes.
You just can't make this stuff up.
No.
Like, if you were watching this in a movie, you'd be like, oh, come on, this is too fucking obvious. But since it's real life, we just write it off. Like, oh, yep, that's what the TV told me.
And again, if you're like a TC out there who's a naysayer and wants to be like blah blah blah, just look up what I said, man. You know, look up the tunnel thing in London. Look up the war game where the Port Authority was war gaming buildings getting hit by airplanes. Say it's another coincidence. It's fine.
Those people that refuse to believe you and want to hear sources, you just have to tell them, like, man, I cannot waste my time holding your hand and walking you through this. If you don't have enough interest to go look at it yourself, then you're asleep and I cannot wake you up.
It's also nice to have the mute button on somebody in the middle of an argument. Really makes it one-sided in a way.
Yeah.
It's like having what was that guy's name that I hate? Chris Matthews? That's not it. Chris Wallace. It's like Chris Wallace running your debate. All right, boys. Well, that's the show for tonight. Friends, Romans, and Patriots.
Let me jump in one second. I apologize profusely.
Oh,
It has come up many times about the puddles of the melted steel. I think, like, obviously the jet fuel doesn't burn hot enough to make puddles of steel. But, however, the buildings coming down, just the sheer friction of the concrete and the steel and the everything else coming down upon itself, I think just the sheer friction could probably do that. Like, if you've ever seen friction welding, where they just like spin two pieces of metal onto each other, it doesn't take long and it turns basically liquid. Just my my final thoughts and my 2 cents.
That's all well and good, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but that does not explain the stream of molten steel coming out of the window while the buildings were still standing.
Yep.
I did not see that. That does not explain that.
And with the friction welding, even though, yes, you're right, they spin two pieces together and it gets superheated and they just bond together. Once the spinning stops, it cools off pretty quickly. Granted, yes, the fire could keep it hot enough to keep it going, but that doesn't explain, like he said, like Honda just said, that it was pouring out before the building fell.
Which we've watched on this channel on another day when everyone was like, 9/11, Honda's wrong about it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, explain this. And everyone's like, I can't explain that. All right. Well, again, I appreciate everybody on the panel for showing up tonight. I appreciate everybody out there for watching the show. Again, if you are taking any kind of offense at the fact that I'm talking about this particular subject, I mean, it was not intended as an offense. It's intended as getting at the truth. And that's all I'm trying to do, is just get at the truth. And wherever the truth leads me, that's where I go. if I find out information that's contradictory to something that I already believe, and I've done it before on this channel, I've changed my mind about things that I had a preconception about. And, you know, if that happens again, great. Because the more things you learn, the more things you know, the more things you know, the more things you're right about. And I just want to be right. So thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Never Enough Ammo Butthole Chat or whatever it's called. And peace out, guys. Have a good night. Happy 9/11.
Epstein didn't kill himself.